Hey, business builders. Today I'm at 5-Star Mechanical. I'm in Llewellyn, Pennsylvania, a small little town close to where I live. And I get to interview Kevin and Tiffany Putalavage, who are the founders of 5-Star Mechanical. They started this business in 2020 after Kevin got laid off during the COVID initial recession and setback that we all had. Tiffany was working in healthcare at the time and was pregnant with their daughter. So she was in the midst of what we know was a really kind of hellish time for healthcare workers. And Kevin said, hey, I don't think I want to go back to work. I think I want to start a business. They did that. And in today's episode, you'll hear how they've done that together. You'll hear how they create family, how they have boundaries, how they talk about each of their roles. They each have a very key role in the business. You'll hear them talk about their vision for the future. You'll also hear about how they encountered coaching and learning and self-improvement that enabled them to create a culture, a winning culture, values, and a team that cares about those things, and a team that gets weekly training. So you're really going to enjoy today's episode. I recorded it inside there with him, and it's a pleasure to bring it to you.
Welcome to the Business Builder Way podcast, where we help business builders grow leadership skills and wisdom and stay grounded through hero stories. So let's get after it. Hey, Kevin and Tiffany, really good to spend time with you today. Welcome to the Business Builder Way.
Thank you for having us, Wayne.
Yeah, thank you. I've been looking forward to it, been reflecting and thinking a lot about it.
Awesome.
Definitely have a lot to share.
Yeah, good. So unique experience today. I'm in the business. I'm at 5-Star Heating and Air in Llewellyn, Pennsylvania. Little town, took me 20 minutes to get here. So I'm excited to have this live conversation. Can you just tell us about what is the business? If you were to paint a picture of it, of course, we're in your office here, but I know there's service vehicles and there's always people and processes, but how would you just paint us a picture of what's going on here?
Yeah, we're a heating and air conditioning contractor serving mainly Schuylkill County. We have a few clients, longtime friends, family that are a little bit outside of Schuylkill County, and that we expand a little bit there, but not much. But right now we're about 70% of residential. So we do a lot of residential work with heating and air conditioning, and heat pumps and gas furnaces, and always looking for new ways, the best, most efficient equipment. We're a young team that is looking for the future, more sustainability. And the other 30% of that is commercial. Commercial work is a whole different animal for us. It's, of course, a lot bigger buildings, businesses. We have pretty big contracts that I've held on dearly to and have worked with, even with a small crew, have made it manageable. So we haven't bit off more than we can chew. Residential keeps us going 90% of the year. We're very tight knit to the community. We're all local technicians, and it's heating and air conditioning. That's what we do. It's a skill that I've had for about 11 years now, and still have a good passion for it.
Nice. So Kevin, what do you do in the business? And Tiffany, what do you do in the business? What are your roles?
I would say that my role is the mastermind of operations. So I pretty much hold the whole business together behind the scenes. So I do dispatching, I do scheduling, I do everything that everyone doesn't see.
Insurance,
Marketing, sales, Facebook, website design. I work with our website design crew that we work with.
Local small business, any legalities, lawyers, coaching, setting up meetings, trainings.
Yeah.
Pretty much it all.
The problem solver for everything, the communication with all of our customers. So I have a big role. I wear multiple hats.
Yeah, got it. And how about you, Kevin? What is your role today?
So it's changed. It changes very, very often. But today it's a lot of sales. We have a lot of new clients, new leads coming in. And what I mean by sales is we have many people calling us that want to upgrade their systems, or they have broken systems for a second opinion.
Sure.
So I'm that on-site person that establishes a relationship with our clients, our new and old, or new and existing clients. So doing a lot of proposals, bids, maintenance plans, structuring those things, some processes within the software we use. So trying to create easier platforms or ways that our technicians, it makes things easier to field. We have a pretty deep software that keeps a big database of all of the pictures, the summaries, all the things the guys did on site. So I'm constantly going in and picking those things out and talking with our field technicians about, hey, what's the technicalities of the field? So a lot of the troubleshooting, a lot of the up and coming new refrigerants, discussing the technicalities of units. And then of course is putting together a plan for install, making sure the installs are performed. That's a big part of business for us. Is, of course, we offer service work, but 70% of our work is installations. So that's my role. That right now has become, in the past, a year ago, I wasn't really at the point where I was full-time doing that. The business is still growing, but now it's pretty much a full-time position in out of the field, but working with the field technicians.
So how many field technicians do you have? How many service vehicles do you have? It's easier, it helps to like picture with a fleet.
Yeah, it is a small fleet right now. I mean, at one point we were up to 7 guys in the field, including myself when I was in the field. But now we have 1 full-time service technician. We have a part-time technician, and then we have 2 full-time installation technicians. So pretty much a 4-man crew full-time with 3 vans. And our 3rd van is ready to be picked up that has a new wrap on it. So we have 3 wrap vans, an installation trailer, and that's what we have going on in the field. We have our install crew drives together. They work together hand in hand all the time. Sure. Whereas our service techs have their separate vans and they're taking all the service calls, any breakdowns, repairs, maintenance, stuff like that.
So I'm sitting, of course, in Kevin and Tiffany's office, and back behind Kevin, which you can't see, is a whiteboard. And I'm going to ask you what that means. The whiteboard says, why do we do this? What's our why? What is it like working for 5-star? Do you understand our why? Do you understand our core values? Whose handiwork is that? Whose artwork is that?
I would say both of ours. Kevin actually got a lot of those questions from this book, right?
It's a cultivation of things. Yeah, the book I'm reading now it's a Harvard read that I bought at an airport coming back from a coaching home.
On high performance.
On high performance.
Yeah.
It's a cultural thing between why do we do this? It's still hard to determine exactly what that is because it's constantly adapting. Why we do this, we want to create a lifestyle for ourselves and our employees as well to live a life of abundance. We want to support our families. We want to be able to live, hopefully not paycheck to paycheck, and try to create those things. And of course, then the other side of it is why choose a service like this where we are at other people's homes? Well, we want to create relationships. And that's the best part about my position now is hearing stories about what people like to do beyond their work and really engage with people.
Yes, our customers are not just our customers, they're actually family to us. Like we get to know them, they get to know us, they share stories with us. So it's really like personal. It feels really good. There's a connection there. We're not just a contractor coming to your house and we're doing the work and then we're leaving. We want that built relationship. I feel like years ago, there was a lot of businesses, especially in small towns like this, where you built those relationships. And I think that we've gotten away from that. I think a lot of people don't trust contractors now because they don't show up. They're not reliable. They take your money. They never show back up. We're trying to change the approach on that.
Yeah, I'd like to always say that I kind of go against the most common denominator. People are the same thing. It's kind of outside the box. I like to think outside the box a lot. And like Tiff is saying is when we're often at people's houses, a lot of people say, oh my gosh, I can't get a hold of people. They don't answer. They're this price, that price, or just something is making somebody not feel right inside. And that's where we've invested and put our time was, well, what is right? What do people want and ask people? We've constantly been asking for feedback and what people desire, and people want to be answered.
They want peace of mind. They want to know that they're going to be.
We've doubled down there.
So
that's where we've doubled down in culture is to, we will answer the phones. We want to be available. We want to have the most honesty and integrity in what we do.
So have you posed those questions on the whiteboard to your team, or is it more like the two of you are reflecting on the answers to those questions to get clear together as the business founders?
So we have trainings, like we have meetings with our team every week. We try to have them every week, and when we get busy, it's a little crazy, but we always go over something with them. So it's not just work related, but it's also like culture, making sure that we're following what our culture is and they're all aware of what that is. Because I feel like with a lot of companies, you forget what is your culture?
Sure.
So,
yeah, that's something that's been on the board for a couple of weeks now. And it is something that we do discuss with our team members. We have 2 other blackboards here, chalkboards that we use that have some more values, core values and pillars of the company that we do constantly ask. We have asked this with the team and it's never the same answer. I leave it there because I want guys to see it. I want guys to reflect on it. Like, wait, why do we do what we do? We all come in maybe on a Monday or, a day you don't want to really do much. You're not really motivated, but then you see that, why do I do what I do? Well, my family, it's for my friend, my business, my life. So it's a good reflection thing. And I try to keep these things open as much as I can. We've done a lot of things in the past with openness and just mindset in general, where I've given out the 5-star journal.
Okay.
This was given everybody to write down what's wrong, or if you didn't want to talk about it. Some people being young, sometimes it's hard to, create productive confrontation,
Sure.
right? So they were certain things similar to that where we needed to reflect on things, and we no longer need the journal because we can now openly communicate.
I grew up working in Schuylkill County, and there's probably other rural, small town type areas with a strong industrial, in our case, coal mine work ethic. Where I worked at, it used to be called Schuylkill Products. It's now Northeast Pre-Stress, when I was in high school. And the culture there was pretty much like you would get yelled at, hollered at, as my grandfather would have said. You get hollered at if you weren't doing your work right. And the culture was just like, people wouldn't have shared. People went to work to get paid. And it was expected that if you were at work, you're just going to do your job, get out of the way. And so you're working with younger people who maybe haven't been in an environment where they can openly share things, but you're also in an area geographically or culturally, sociologically, where there wasn't a lot of that. So good for you that you've been working on training and getting people to talk. That's a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, societal changes are constant. And I think it's kind of like a generational thing where what it does is it opens up outside the box in your mind to think there is another way, right? There is other ways to, the book on high performance is how do you work with your colleagues and partners and friends to be able to work on a high performing level. And I think that's openness. A cool event that I'm part of is Rise of King. So that's iron sharpens iron as man sharpens man. So you need to be open. That needs to be, you need to be vulnerable and willing to adapt. So that's the nature of our culture. Is I've taken a lot of beatings mentally from people, and people really will lay it on with no filters. But those ultimately lead to the biggest gains, to be able to mindfully work through them.
We've talked a bit about what the business is, but I want to know, how did you start this? Kevin, you looked at Tiffany and you said, well, do you remember how we started? Like, your story is different than mine, right? So Tiffany, how did this start? What is your perspective on how the business started?
So it was during COVID 2020. Kevin was laid off work. I was expecting our daughter. I was working in healthcare, and I was just trying to survive what was happening. It was not a fun time.
Well,
And especially when you were expecting a
Sure.
child, it was very scary because there was a lot of different things going on. And it was May. Kevin came to me, I think it was 2 weeks after we had Haven. And you said, I don't want to go back to work. Everybody was starting to start work a little bit more. And you said, I want to start my own business. And at that time, I just had this newborn baby. I just survived COVID and healthcare.
Right.
I'm nursing. And I just looked at him and I'm like, do whatever you want. Like, do whatever you want. Like, it's all you. And I think we started it. We filed everything by June, the beginning of June. We posted our first video, I think, on Facebook, June 6th or June 9th.
Yeah.
And it just exploded.
I think there was a little bit more to that. I mean, in the midst of that, we were building an addition on the home, because during COVID, like in December, as I got laid off, we started to build an addition to accommodate for a daughter that we waited till, of course, last minute. And all in the midst of coming up, I still have my original business plan in file here, of just a notebook of all the notes I would take of what I was going to do for a business plan, which was very integral, very critical for starting business. Was I at least had a vision. And I think Tiff wasn't too much involved with that vision because, of course, having a baby and not working for several months. So we weren't making as much money as we were. We were spending more than we had. And then we had I think we had like $4,000 or $5,000 in savings, and ended up buying a van.
It was $6,000 that we started our business.
And we haggled for the Astro van. We bought an Astro van that was from 2005.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was working out of a truck before that, doing some side work, but bought the van. And that's how we started when Riker was born, when I got out of college, back to Thaddeus Stevens. So for me, it goes back a little bit even further. So I graduated college in May of 13. I had a couple $1,000s, moved to Harrisburg, was the same exact thing as starting the business. So it was like on repeat. But at that time, Tiff was a huge, huge supporter in getting through college. That was the key to me in the field, was I had my cousin Scott and Coach Pat Mason. There was a few that said that this industry is really good. You're mechanically inclined. Like I was working on Jeeps with my dad and brothers and stuff. And the mechanics were there for me to be able to have the motor skills. And when I went to college, graduated, son was born, graduated the next Monday, graduated Saturday, Monday, started in the field. We moved to Harrisburg 3 months later, which was a huge risk for us to move away from all family with a newborn. Again, had a couple $1,000s if that at 23 years old.
Yeah,
and we made it work for a year. We rented a place for a year, didn't miss any payments. You took a nanny position. All of that was like a lot of sacrifice, but Tiff's commitment to get me through, to help me get through college. I wasn't known for the best grades in school. I was that C player. I was like getting by. But when I got to college, Tiff really, pushed that with me and to make sure I was graduating on a good note and getting with a good company. And it was important. And I realized, of course, having a child, it was very critical that I needed a good paying job. So I was fortunate to get a very good job in a union position, met some incredible people that are huge influence on me starting business. And then fast forward, then I'd work.
We bought our first house a year later.
Yeah, it was a year later.
later.
We
Yeah.
built some credit from
We
a 600
still
up
live in
and
the house.
really hammered down on budget and saving.
There would always be like a mountain that we had to climb, and then there would be another mountain we had to climb. And it just got us farther and further to where we wanted to be. I feel like we've always had visions and goals of like what we wanted, and we always like got to that point. Like it was hard. There was a lot of crying and a lot of tears, and there was a lot of things, but we never gave up, and we kept going after it, and we're not done. Like we constantly setting goals, constantly setting visions. And
So starting the business, what I hear in that is starting the business wasn't the first time that you went off and kind of stretched, even though there weren't a lot of financial resources. You were, or you call it a mountain, Tiffany. So you started this business in 2020, Astro van, you're a technician, you're able to go out, do work, charge for that work. People for sure at that time really wanted to get things done. And now we're 4 years later. At what point, when did you hire your first person? When did you buy another van, or maybe something that's a little bit of an upgrade, maybe not brand new? Like, what's the journey been to growing the team and the business?
So the first hire, it was actually my great aunt Barbara to help me with just filing my stacks of papers. I had invoices. I had people I wasn't even billing at the time. I actually had customers calling me saying, Kevin, you didn't bill me. Are you going to?
Those days personally.
Yeah. And we're sitting at home like, we need to pay the bills. And we didn't even ask people for that. And I was cutting a lot of bills off, and I didn't really understand the aspects of business and the growth and the profits and what you need to sustain and build a business. And so I was just taking it in as like, oh, hey, $60 is great. I never made $60 an hour. So my great aunt came in, she helped with filing, and this was a total curveball for her. It was actually her son that influenced me to get into this industry. So it was just it was cool to have that, but she's retiring, and she was able to help me file some things. So after that, like my pace was very quick. It was got to move quickly. If things aren't the way I kind of wanted it, it would create a lot of stress. So then I hired, and she was only going to be a temporary help till I can get another person. Within a few months, realized that I need help. And Tiff's background wasn't this type of work. It wasn't dispatching, and she had a newborn. We had a newborn. So it was not at that time for me to lean on Tiff.
I went back to work.
As she was holding a family together as I was going through this. Then I called upon a really good friend of mine, Samantha, and she ended up taking over a dispatch role. And coincidentally, she was ready to move back home from Philadelphia, but we've been talking about starting a business for many years together. Entrepreneurial person that is now in business for herself. So she worked with us for 3 years. And then last year created her own business. So she was dispatching, working out of our house, out of our closet in a new master bedroom.
Do you ever see the guy
Like
that owns
that's
Amazon? Like he's literally with a desk.
Oh yeah.
You ever seen that
Back in
picture?
the day.
That
Yeah.
was us. Like we had a
Like
walk-in closet, and we had a desk in our walk-in closet. That's where we started.
really funny. It was just in a corner with a printer, and then like Kevin's space and Sam's space that were like a square and square in the midst of our bedroom. So that was very challenging. And so it was funny because at the time you weren't allowed, of course, we're still like non-essential. So like I'm trying to weed through that with COVID. I can't not be at people's houses. And So what we ended up doing was doing consultation calls. I do a 15-minute consultation with customers for an estimate. So I'd slap a York sticker or a unit, like a manufacturer, like on the wall to make it look like I was in an office because I was doing a consultation.
What a great story.
So if I'm going to be professional, I got to also look the part, right? In a bedroom, that's not how you want to present. And so I ended up ripping the paint off the wall, but we ended up getting out of there. At that time, I also had somebody helping in the field. I hired a first helper that was helping me with many things. We worked hand in hand on everything. I did all the installs with him. And then he was operating with me out of the van until it got into coaching. We were called upon by our distributor for our equipment. They had reached out and said, hey, we're running this program. It's called a boot camp. This is Contractors Boot Camp. And this is a program designed for a startup business, a one-man show that wants to go to a 3 to 5 man crew, wants to grow to business. And that's always been in the plan. So for us, it's always been, we want to grow this, right? We didn't know how far time, but we knew it was 5+ people, 10+ people, and I can envision it being a $30 million company. I can see that.
Okay.
So Contractor Boot Camp, and we did a Zoom to see if we were good candidates for it. Here we ended up getting in Contractors Boot Camp. This leads into Soletta leadership, Michael Soletta. That got me into then the neurological aspects of just people. The human being, the mind, and what people want and how they want it and what people don't care about versus what they do, right? So he was very good at neuroscience and we invested heavily there. And we went to a 7-man crew in 2 years. And
we moved into here and not even a year later, 2021, June 2021.
A year we start renting.
Yeah.
Yep. A year we start renting. So we moved out of the closet.
That's good. Yeah. So one of the things, I'm often making notes while you're talking, and I had written down coaching and reading and the things you do, because you've grown fast. And what I was thinking is there's probably competitors in our area, and there's probably other heating and air conditioning companies in other small towns across America who haven't done as much with that, like the why, what's our why and the values and how we do things, or having training for the technicians, talking to people about, hey, we want to hear what's on your mind. So with the journals. And so I knew that probably came from somewhere that you were able to do that quickly. And I mean, I think some of it is, Tiffany, we were speaking offline before we got started about you were interested in coaching work, and I've seen some of your videos. You're conscious about life, food, things we're eating, how we move, whatever, mindset. So now I hear where some of that comes from, which is really cool. So you've built this beautiful business. You got the 3 vans now. You've settled in to a place where you're at. You had started with 7. Now you've settled in a little bit. Then there'll be another climb, another place that you go, right? But what is it vision wise? You said I can see 30 million. You said we're not done yet. So what is the next place? What's the next kind of climb and place that you can see you going together and see the company going?
So what we actually we're in the works of actually moving locations.
Okay.
So that would be the next thing that we're going to do. And that's going to make us grow even more. So I think where we want to be is, I would love more commercial businesses. I think we have a lot of residential. I think there's potential for even more residential, but my background is I love the business.
The commercial end,
Yeah.
with commercial business. Yeah, you do have a lot of resources and connections there. And I think it's a demand thing. The area is demanding, a lot of businesses are demanding for these contracts to be able to be peace of mind.
Knowing that if something goes wrong, that you'll actually be there, because a lot of people aren't there, don't answer the phone, right?
Yeah. When you invest into your maintenance and stuff like that, there is key components like numbers that work when businesses look at that and say spend 10% on maintenance for a year. That is critical for you not to spend chunks more than that time. So I know that in our area needs,
sure. Yeah, they want to be able to predictably know what they're going to spend for budgeting. And
and I love that strategy. I love to strategize with companies. We have a big company that we work with that didn't realize in 17 years the importance of maintenance, and now they are thrilled that we put it together a massive contract for them. And they took care of their building for as long as they ever did, but now they freed up their guys to be able to do the production they want to do. So they didn't know that was possible. So educating and strategizing for future benefits of their business is a win for our employees, for our company, and for our clients. So it's a triple win.
Yeah, and moving locations and creating a new location
Yeah.
naturally creates kind of a vacuum. Like now we got to fill it. Now we got to optimize in this
Yeah.
location. So that's
Yeah.
exciting. So when you're going to move imminently, or is it?
Yeah.
It's been a couple months.
With the
Awesome.
process of building a new shop, I'm really, really, really big on efficiency and customer service and making sure everything flows really good. So I came on board 6 months ago and I've been changing a ton of things for the better.
Yeah.
And that was one of them where I was like, we need something where we can be more efficient, we can be more organized. I'm seeing this and that. He was 100% on board with it.
So other people that are in residential and commercial contracting of any sort, other service-oriented businesses always want to know, you mentioned you have a robust computer system that you're using. So people like to know about like, what's your tech stack or what are your tools? How do you manage the business? What are the things that you're using now?
Yeah, so we're using a software. It's called Field Edge. So we use
Field Edge. Okay.
Field Edge is dispatch software that keeps, like I said, pictures of everything. It keeps all of our summaries, work notes, internal notes. It can build proposals for us. We have our numbers imported in there so that all of our system matchups. The dispatching is phenomenal. There's time stamping that guys are clocking it out. It shows us travel. It shows us the actual work time. So constantly in our field of service, people ask, well, that guy wasn't there for an hour. Well, let me double check. And we have that stuff. So very important efficiency type things that are built in there that is at first cost us a lot. We didn't have it wasn't really part of, it was more so of a reactive approach to go to a software, but we ate that. We took that risk and of course have developed that and been more efficient with it. So that's one of the big tools.
And our guys have been trained too, especially since I've been on board. They take a ton of notes, like that customer, because a lot of our customers are not home when we do perform a maintenance. So they are putting everything that they did, everything that they saw. If they're making recommendations or solutions, they're adding a quote to it, they're putting it in the work order, and then they're sending it off to the customer.
Some people say it's covering your ass, and I say it's our due diligence.
Yeah,
Sure.
It's our due diligence to give you every piece of information that we have seen. And that's what we do.
Are you doing maintenance agreements with residential customers or service agreement? Like for the following year, we'll come and do 2 inspections or 1 inspection or anything like that?
Yeah. Very good maintenance program. We're nearing our goal for that. So we have goals set up. That's one of the biggest things. We have these things laid out. We're about 200 and I'm not sure today because I think we had 2 more maintenances, but we're at like almost 250 maintenance agreements with residential customers, and our goal is 300.
So I have a contractor that I'm another heating and air conditioning contractor in Connecticut who maybe we'll get to meet at some point, and they were working on their service agreements and stuff. Can your customers pay with a credit card, like online? Is it easy for them to pay for their service?
Yeah, we have a monthly subscription too, so it's kind of break down. So like the maintenance is $250, we can break that down in 12 months, automatic payments.
And do you run that through the program that you're?
Yeah, the software, it's automatic. And our scheduling is automatic too. So we have your maintenance set up. Basically, we say April 1st and October 1st is the start of our maintenance season. April 1st is for the spring to the summer. And then our October is for our heating equipment. And we'll be prompted to give you a call to set up your next maintenance. So that's been the biggest feedback for us recently, is that we just want somebody to have it all. I don't want to have to worry about it.
That's what I want as a consumer.
Yeah.
I want somebody to just handle it for me. It is worth paying a premium to know that somebody smarter than me about that particular thing just has it handled. I don't want to worry
except
about it.
mine. It's
My
like
lawnmower, come pick up my lawnmower, sharpen the blades. I mean, I can do those things.
Yeah.
But I forget sometimes, or it's like, when am I going to get to it? So it's really nice.
Well, I think that's a big thing with societal change too now, is with COVID, a lot of that has been the importance of our time, right? And that's where like a lot of those things happen in the past couple of years. I've only started during COVID, but I'm noticing for myself that my time is becoming very, very important in how I spend it. So when I spend it on maybe looking at my air conditioner, if that was me, as a consumer of it, for example, my lighting in my house, I can run some wire and electrical, but I won't.
Doesn't mean you should. There's 2 more areas I want to explore kind of quickly. One is habits. Like Brendon Burchard has a saying, high performance habits, or we would call it entrepreneurial success, habits, routines, etc. How do you live more of a high performance, not from an ego point of view, but like, hey, we're trying to optimize. We're trying to spend as much time with our kids as we can, even though we have a business. We're trying to make sure, though, that we're here proactively with the employees. So what would you say are your entrepreneurial business builder, in my world, what are your business builder habits that help you be better, more effective leaders?
My business builder habits. So my biggest one is definitely it's God. I have a lot of belief and faith in God. It's something I do. I read scripture and prayer, and I also incorporate my visions and goals into that. So I thank God for everything around me. And I also ask him to help me along the way. And it brings a lot of more consciousness to what's in front of me. I read a lot of books. I have a lot of books that I don't finish, but I'm constantly going and taking the best parts of them, highlighting constantly, and then even rereading some things. Coaching has been the biggest thing. We have invested heavily into coaching. I've done some hypnotherapy, just some mindful things. I'm very, very passionate about fishing. I make sure that we accommodate for those things. I make sure that we're doing the family things that would bother us if we didn't do it right, playing outside with our children. And those things don't come if we can't balance that work-life balance. I like to call it's all life, but I think the biggest thing for me is shutting off that time. There was a big thing a few years ago was on call is one of the biggest things for like service technicians. We haven't had on call in 4 years, and nobody has shook a stick at it to us. We are not on call. I'm not answering at midnight. I'm sorry, but you leave us a message and I'll call you back at midnight, right? It's not that we won't be there. It's that we have ways around it. We can work through things, not being there on site all the time. So there's a couple of those things that keep us going, is being very mindful of our time and where we're spending it. If we have children, we spend it with them. We don't have any guilt, shame there. And when we do, I lean back to God, all thanks. So that's been my building blocks.
I feel like mine's a little bit different because when you're a woman, you have a lot to juggle constantly. So I just making time for myself, working out, meditating, coming up with like what is priorities throughout my day that I need to accomplish. I am the one that stays home with the kids when they're sick. So just trying to let things be. And I love control. I'm very organized. I'm very OCD. So I've learned with owning your own business, none of those things count. They really don't. And just when things got really, really tough and you feel like you can't go one more day or you want to give up, is just taking a break, taking a breather and picking up the pieces, later on or the next day, and having faith, because there has been a lot of rock bottoms. There's been a lot of times where we question things as business owners. And if you have faith, it always ends up working out for you. So faith has been really high up there for me, but making time, and then just making sure that we're making time for our kids too, because at the end of the day, life is short. You can never get time back. And everybody that I've talked to who has owned a business, their biggest regret is working too much or putting too much into their business and then not spending time with their kids when they're young and they're grown up, and they regret that. So it's not that we're not going to come out in the middle of the night. It's not that we're not going to come, but if we're in the middle of dinner, we're going to finish dinner as a family, and then Kevin's going to come out and help. So
one more thing was like, what you're saying, like the mountain, the climbing, the rock bottom and stuff like that. Like one thing that I'd like to use over time was your mess becomes your message. Right. So how far you have fallen in things, how far things have seemed like they failed or rock bottom, like that's how far it goes down is how high it will grow. That's been a philosophy that we've really sat on, is your mess becomes your message. So we've leaned on them. I have been open about those things to share the challenges, and there's many of them.
So I think you kind of hit it. I got a 3-circle Venn diagram model. I don't know if you've seen this, but it comes from Harvard Business School also. It's 3 circles of a family business is this model. So it's like, you could be in a family business, you could be a family member, you could be an owner, and you could be a worker, like a key employee. You could be, the two of you, I would say, are all 3 of those. Your family, your workers, you both have a key role now, and you're both ownership, which we might say has more to do with longer term strategy and where we're headed. Eventually, maybe you'll have one of your kids comes into the business, and maybe for a while, one of them will be family and they'll be a worker, but they won't be an owner, right? You have other people in your business, these technicians, and maybe 1 or 2 of them are like really key and have been here longer. They might be workers, but they're not family. Maybe eventually they have a little bit of ownership or something. So people are moving in those 3 circles in a family business. How do the 2 of you keep these different dimensions separate? How do you have conversations about our family, and then conversations about the business, and then conversations about, hey, you're in that kind of lead technician sales role where you're the advisor, I guess, to the technicians, right? More technical advice, and I'm the operations. How do you see that playing out and having boundaries?
It's been a while since I feel like I've been in the center of that for a while. And I think one of the biggest things is the importance of communication with everybody here at the team, right? I think communication is just the biggest thing, where we assume expectations.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
me and Kevin wake up usually together in the morning before the kids wake up. We talk work. We talk about what's on the schedule that day, what happened yesterday if we weren't able to, because you know, if I was at a chamber, like yesterday, I was at a chamber event all day. So we didn't get to talk a lot of work and business yesterday.
Yeah.
Who do I need to follow up with? So on and so forth. Then the kids wake up, we're family. We don't talk about work. We take the kids to school, and then we come to the office. Usually if Kevin's here in the morning, again, we'll catch up, we'll talk about business. Sometimes we'll talk about the kids if like he needs to pick a kid up after school or sport or whatever. And then when we leave, it's all about our kids. We have homework, we have sports, our kids are in a ton of things.
Yeah.
So we pretty much turn it off. And then if the kids are out in the yard and they're playing him or sitting up on the deck and I need to tell him about something, or he has to tell me about something work related, we'll talk about it, but we don't make it like the center of our attention. If our 3-year-old runs up and she wants to show us her bubbles, we turn it off. We constantly are just like being present in the moment, but then also just making sure that we're also communicating throughout the day too.
It reminds me, we're creatures of habit, right? So I'm trying to think of how did I get to that point where we were able to create a habit that you wake up, you don't discuss certain things because the children are present and you want to be present with those.
Right.
A little while back, this is called the 5-second journal, where I first go through things of gratitude. And I'm writing this first thing in the morning. This was a habit I created that is ingrained in me. It's a morning routine, is very critical. Waking up in the morning is being grateful for everything yesterday and today. And it can only be a couple small things. So 3 things. And then it is my top priorities for the day. What's my number 1 top priority, and writing that down. And then, you know, just going through my schedule, making sure I have my schedule laid out and have foundations of that. But then once that 15 minutes is done in the morning, then all the other things that happen when the kids wake up in the next half hour, I can turn this stuff off. I have it written down. I have that ingrained. It's already there. So I can put it down and pick up the other aspect of life.
It's really great. So what you spoke to was the family and then the key employee or the worker. You're both key employees. So you talk about the business, there's the family and the key employee worker boundary. And then you're getting into your morning habits and the need to make sure you take time for yourself, meditation, exercise, etc. So you're speaking to the personal leadership that you do within that encompasses this model. The one piece that we didn't talk about as much, or that you didn't really mention, and I'm guessing you have a time for it, would be more the owner or the strategy. Like, do you have a 3-year or a 5-year strategic plan? And do you talk about that together? Have you talked about where we might be in 3 or 5 years, and how does that building factor in? When does that time happen? When do the two of you put your owner's hats on and speak in that way?
So in the beginning of January, I make a vision board personally. I hang it in where I get ready every morning, and that is my personal vision board. And then we do one for the business. We do one with our team as well. So we constantly, during our team meetings, we follow up where we're at. Like, we'll talk about where our goals are with maintenance customers and where we are with sales for the year and that kind of stuff. But when it comes to me and him, I definitely take no offense, I take the hat and the ownership of making sure that everything is aligned and we're at where we're at. And then I just kind of like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. I just let him know, but he's definitely gives me permission to kind of just take that on solely.
So you can see a $30 million company.
Yeah. So
can you see that? Do you want that? And you don't have to know in the moment. So I might like be opening up something like, oh, maybe we need to talk about that. Like, when will that happen if you're primarily the driver of strategy and vision board?
So we grow every year.
Yeah.
We grow 30% every year.
we've been consistent.
30% growth every single year.
Yep.
So that's awesome and cool to see. We're hounding down on efficiency. We're hounding down on our employees and training. We're getting better as owners. We're moving locations. The vision is definitely there. Realistically, I would say probably within the next 10 years.
If the demand for our type of culture is still present and it's still engaging, and other contractors won't do it, then we'll be that company. If they adapt to culture like we do, I'm okay at a $5 million company.
Nice.
I'll be perfectly fine because I'll be able to take care of the community we're within. I don't think enough in this area for the commercial work. You have to get a lot of commercial work by doing that, right? Residentially, it can happen. There's plenty to possibly bring that revenue, but I don't think the area even wants to see that either. People do want options. Part of ego is control, and you want to be able to have options. If we have all the options available, if I have to do that because other people aren't adapting, because people want you to communicate and they want the fairest price the first time, they want your honesty every time. If that's not going to be the culture, that will be the area. That's what it will be. So it's more so a demand. I would love to be that market holder, but it doesn't have to be.
I love it. So the real driver you've got is the culture and the level of service and how we do things. And if there's the employees in this area that want to come work in a culture like that, and if there's the people, businesses or residences who want to consume that and work that way, then you will. And if not, that's okay too. And you can continue to have this integrated family and business and fishing, right? And self-development, coaching things that you're into. You can have all that at 5 million. That'll be beautiful too. That's a great place to stop. It's been a real pleasure hearing your story, where you're at and where you're headed. So thanks for giving your time and attention to the Business Builder Way.
Cool.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Wayne.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning into the Business Builder Way podcast. If this episode spoke to you, click that subscribe button and share it with a friend. That's how this message gets out into the world. If it is helpful for us to have a short conversation, I'd love to do that. Send me an email at wayne@businessbuildercamp.com.